I'm with Sulaiman Khatib from Combatants for Peace. Now, Sulaiman, what is Combatants for Peace?
Good morning and thanks for having me. My name is Sulaiman Khatib. I'm one of the founders of Combatants for Peace. And Combatants for Peace is a joint Palestinian-Israeli non-violence movement that's established during the middle of the Second Intifada, almost 15 years ago, in order to end the Israeli occupation and seeking for promoting a non-violence model and a new narrative in order to achieve freedom and dignity to everybody.
Why was the organization started in the first place?
So the founders of the organizations, like myself, have been active in either in the part of the Israeli army, from our Israeli side, or in the Palestinian side, people like myself that used armed struggle before and were in jail. I was in jail for myself when I was 14 for 10 years. And these people came to the conclusion that there is no military solution for our conflict, and the best way is to join hands and struggle using non-violence in order to end the occupation and achieve peace between our peoples.
So this is a real turnaround for people who are in the organization. They've turned and renounced their sort of violence.
Yes, everyone has their own personal journey, but there is common ground among the people that established the organization, moving from the circle of violence and one narrative to a new circle that include both sides, despite, of course, the power dynamic that we, of course, recognize. And just to mention that the organization had been going through different changes, including having people that not necessarily fitting the profile of being either in the army or ex-Palestinian prisoners. So we do have, as you can see now, a female office manager and a female director they were never in jail, luckily. Even though everybody is affected, obviously, by the occupation. Yeah.
And how many people do you have in the organization?
So actually, Combatants for Peace is based on volunteering people from different areas, actually, from north to the south, Palestinians, Israelis. So it's not really based on a huge number of people, rather there is maybe 100 core people that are active. And when we have big events or demonstrations or big events, we can gather thousands of people that are not exactly membership.
And what sort of people join your peace movement?
Yeah, at the beginning we were focusing more on people that were either Palestinians that were activists or were in jail, ex-prisoners, and Israelis that were in the army. That's natural network that we have among our friends. And then, as I said, we decided to open to everybody that believe in our values is welcome to join. So we have all type of people actually, and we have younger groups now. We have Combatants for Peace youth group that run by Rafa. She is Palestinian living in Nablus. We had the Freedom School in our Israeli side that basically training youngsters to be activists and to join Combatants for Peace and other activist organizations. So we have really different diversity of gender and diversity of age. Still, the identity of the organization, because of the founders, stayed as ex-combatants.
And what sort of things do you do as an organization?
So we had campaigns every year, specifically the Joint Memorial Day that happened 2-3 weeks ago, in the same moment when the Israelis have the Memorial Day. Ours is basically open and include victims from both sides. Which turned one of the biggest events locally and globally for peace, I would say, because this became a global event actually. We have the Nakba ceremony in 2 weeks from now, even in less than 2 weeks, which is joined by Israelis and Palestinians to commemorate the Palestinian catastrophe, the Nakba, which, so these are events that happened every year. And through the year, we had also all kinds of lectures, storytelling, and actions on the ground of solidarity with Palestinians in the occupied territory, specifically in Area C, demonstrations against house demolition, and also planting trees and olive picking and all kinds of this sort of activities. And also we do have a movie about Combatants for Peace that help us to reach out to many people called Disturbing the Peace. And we also show this movie still until now, locally in every community that want to talk with us, so we can use this movie or bring Palestinian and Israelis to speak about their personal story, transformation. And usually the main principle in Combatants for Peace is a joint organization, binational. So in every position of the decision making, the organization, in every lectures, in every activity, we do have people from both sides. That's central important. So we do activities through the year together with many other organizations as well.
Is it quite a moving thing coming together for a memorial?
Yeah, so generally the Memorial Day is an Israeli thing. But 15, 16 years ago, we established, we started to do what we call it at the time, Alternative Memorial Day. And we had 70 people attending the event in Tel Aviv. And then the next year we have 200 people. And then next year we had 1,000 people. The year before Corona, we had event in Tel Aviv. We gathered around 10,000 people. This was a huge event. And since Corona, we do it on Zoom and with the global supporters and sponsors with many organizations. So last year we had 200,000 people watching the Memorial Day. And we call it the joint Memorial Day, not the alternative, because we believe this is part of creating a new reality, a new narrative. And this year we almost have 280,000 people globally watching the ceremony. We had 120 organizations this year that sponsored the ceremony, and they broadcast it in their social media. So it got a lot of attention, and we are proud that this can serve the cause of exclusive, and that the pain is one, even though politically we are in different places, and the power dynamic and the system is trying to separate us. So we try to get together. And it does change a lot of hearts, actually.
Do the two people often get into a spiral of violence that it's hard to get out of?
So let me say this. In the first place, how we see the conflict, not as a conflict between two equal sides. There is a upper hand that is the Israeli occupation hold. That's important distinguish to speak about. I think the majority of the population in both sides want to live normally in peace and freedom. Don't think the problem with the people rather than with the system. The system set to serve one race, one ethnicity, one religion, and to ignore the other. And this will cause, obviously, violence and trouble. So I see a lot of common ground. Actually, I'm an optimistic person despite all the challenges. And I believe that multiple narratives of the different communities that live between the river, Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, they could coexist and live next to each other. That's my belief.
Are most Palestinians and Israelis wanting to actually live together?
I would say it this other way. I would say most of the people, I grew up here and I know people from both sides. I also, because of jail, I learn Hebrew. I believe most of the people, the normal, that they want to live in peace and safety and dignity and let's call it a normal life, if they're given the opportunity. But obviously the politician and the political system is not allowing the change to happen because of the benefits. So they want to keep the status quo and they want to keep the fear. And they want to keep separating people from each other. And that's how the system, that's why we have a wall here, separation wall, a checkpoint, and the whole machine of media and others to separate people from each other. Because there are people and companies and organizations and states, some states that have interest of keeping this conflict happening.
Now you're coming together, do you hear all kinds of different stories from the people?
Yes, we are actually a grassroots movement that's let me say it's not a mainstream organization, obviously, in either side. And definitely we use the tool of personal story and story sharing and telling in order to, understand each other. We don't have to agree, and also understand the complexes and the narratives where everybody is coming from. And we use that a lot internally and also with outside. And I think this is what I would say inspiring tool that some people in Combatants for Peace have gone through a radical change, let's call it, from one place to other place with long details of in their journey. And we use that to inspire other people and to say if we as ex-combatants can come together, then everybody should be able to do that. That's what our message.
What are you hoping for the future for the organization?
I think Combatants for Peace is moving in the right direction. We just recently had this office. We are sitting now in Bejala, from October. And for the first time, we're proud to have a female leader, Rana Sulaiman. She's a great leader to run the organization on the daily basis as a CEO. There is an Israeli CEO, Jonathan. They work closely together with a small office in Tel Aviv. And I think with all the ups and downs and challenges and criticism that we can also talk about, I think Combatants for Peace is important in the activism scene as one of the only a few really joint organizations that use all kinds of techniques and strategies in order to participate in the change making and to participate in ending the occupation. Obviously, we can't do it alone. That's why we need alliances, and we work with many organizations. I believe like the tools we are using, from the movie, from the storytelling, the lectures, the demonstrations, the solidarity action, to reconciliation actions, it's all needed. We need many kind of strategies in order to achieve our goal. And I am, as I said, I'm optimistic. And this vision have a bit of a dream, of course, because the reality is very harsh. We look now at Sheikh Jarrah, the eviction of the Palestinian families, the settlement growing, and we just released a press call today to label the settlers' production, the food and stuff that produce in the settlements, to be labeled in the Israeli society, so people can join also the boycott of the settlements, products of settlements. So there are many, like under the title of nonviolence, there are many tools that we can use to achieve our goals. And I want to say that the journey, the process is also important, not just the end goal, what we call it, because we don't know when that moment could come. Nobody knows. I know from my only personal experience, this is going to be a long journey. It's not like a strategy of 1 week, 1 year.
Is this a unique organization?
Despite I really don't like the ego among different organizations and sometimes the competition, unfortunately, I really believe in cooperation. I don't believe like to compare, like, this is the best organization. I do think it's a unique story here. It's a unique background, together with other organizations that use different tools. And that's why I really wish to see more alliances and cooperation among the different organizations than competing.
What's your website, Facebook page for people who'd like to know more?
So people can go to like combatantsforpeace.org, and they will find like a bunch of pages in Arabic, in Hebrew, in English, Facebook and Twitter also, and the website. And we actually having we just finished the Joint Memorial Day. We had the Nakba ceremony in 15th of May, which we really know this is a taboo in the Israeli society. People don't talk about it or don't know about it, or they don't want to know about it in the mainstream education or media. So I think this is a bravery from Combatants for Peace to take these steps. I know that we will get backlash from different people, but we are as ex-fighters, ready to pay the price, to take brave steps to touch what's called taboo and red lines. And the 27th of May, also for people to know more details, we're releasing a book that myself and an American friend of mine, activist, wrote for the last few years. And it includes basically stories of people in Combatants for Peace, the establishment of Combatants for Peace, and other activists, and also to bring a new hope, bringing multiple narrative for the people that lives here.
Okay, Sulaiman, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.